Local programming on KRWG Public Media made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Fronteras, A Changing America. I'm Robert Palacios. Today on Fronteras, we will be speaking with Dr. Kelley Cleary Coffeen about her book, Tex-mex Diabetes Cooking. Dr. Cleary Coffeen is a culinary expert, food consultant, blogger, and author of 5 Mexican cuisine cookbooks, including 200 easy Mexican recipes. A native of the U.S. Southwest, she has been fascinated by and immersed in Tex-Mex cuisine and culture. She hosted a weekly cooking show out of El Paso, Texas, called Callie's Kitchen. Her culinary work includes assisting the Joslin Center at Harvard Medical School and New Mexico State University with the development of healthy recipes for people with diabetes. Kelley, thank you for joining me today.
Sure, it's a pleasure.
Tell us a little bit about what point in your life you realized food was going to be a huge part of it.
Well, it's hard to even pinpoint it, but I think the main vision I have is when I was 15, I saw a recipe for peanut butter brownies in a 17 magazine, and I had never really done anything on my own like that. So at that point, I had my mom take me to the store, I got all that, and then I made the brownies. They came out great. And I think that year I probably made those brownies like 100 times for all my neighbors and my friends, and it was like my favorite recipe. And so I think that was when I really realized that giving the gift of food could really could make other people happy. And so that's why I love cooking, is to make other people happy with food. So that's probably when it started. So it's been kind of a long journey since then, obviously.
Now this book is dedicated to your mother, Frances. Can you tell us a little bit about her journey through diabetes?
Well, my mom actually was diagnosed as, it's called adult onset diabetes, so it was later on in life. And, you know, there's a lot of things that you can do to try to counteract that happening. But she ended up with, really struggling with diabetes in her later years. And she loved Mexican food, border cuisine. And so that was really impactful for her, because I really watched her struggle with, let's go get some Mexican food and then feeling guilty, or I shouldn't have this, or, maybe this isn't, this is going to make me feel bad after I eat it. And, all these different things that I started seeing playing into her life. And she didn't want us to go without, so she wanted to go if we wanted to go have Mexican food or cook Mexican food. So it really became a struggle for her, and I really kind of watched that, and I thought, man, there's got to be, we can lighten all these recipes up. Most people don't realize it, but Mexican food is pretty healthy anyway if you really kind of just take some little shortcuts here and there, and you can still really enjoy just the authenticity of it. And so I really just started focusing on that probably about, I would say probably about 7 or 8 years ago is when I really started looking at doing some really serious recipe research on it.
Did you get to spend some time with your mom in the kitchen working on some of these recipes?
I really didn't.
No.
We talked about it a lot, but she wasn't really, she wasn't that interested in the cooking side of it like I was.
Yeah.
So I would make things and take them to her, right? And so that helped. And but yeah, her diagnosis and everything progressed pretty quickly afterwards in later years. And so I lost her during the writing of this book, which was really kind of sad. But at the same time, it really motivated me to get it done and make sure that all these recipes were available to others that are really struggling with diabetes in their lives.
Makes sense. We all partake in food, but you seem to have mastered it.
Well, I love food, and I love writing recipes. Yeah. I have a weird talent that I can really like look at something, taste it, and kind of figure out what's in it and kind of replicate it. And I love doing that. So I am a recipe writer and developer and enjoy that. Mm-hmm. And have lived along the southern border, since I was 13, lived in southern Colorado before that. So I've really embraced the culture that I've lived in all these years, and just really celebrate all the wonderful things that the Hispanic Latino culture brings to the United States and around the world. Lots of warmth and lots of celebrating and lots of great flavors, and I just love Mexican cuisine. I think that it's just continually looking at new ways to fix tacos, enchiladas, burritos, tamales, and all the salads and chopped salads and wonderful vinaigrettes that you can lace with chili and just all the wonderful things that come with it. And of course, I love appetizers and cocktails.
When you're in the kitchen, do you ever get into that flow where you feel like you're conducting a symphony and everything just falls in place, everything starts going in?
I love that. My favorite day is a Saturday where I go to the grocery store on a Friday, get everything I need, and I spend the whole day in the kitchen on Saturday just cooking, whether it's even for a dinner that night or just prepping stuff for the week, coming. But, just kind of tooling around the kitchen and, everything is, kind of cooking or simmering or I'm chopping and it's just fun. I mean, that's my creative side. That's what I enjoy doing.
I've realized through my cooking experience that you have to really get a rhythm and flow because something's on the pan cooking and you're over here trying to chop something up and you have to get seasonings in.
Yeah, it does.
You really have to get a motion.
It's very coordinated, right? It's a very intentional, coordinated effort. So I think that, when people say, oh, I don't like to cook, I get it because it takes work and it's a lot of thinking. I have people that say, I don't know how to cook. And I always say, well, if you can follow directions, you can cook. But a lot of people don't want to read recipes. So, everybody has their own, kind of thing. My mom, she was great, but she would she never followed a recipe. So nothing ever tasted the same. Every time she'd fix it, it was different.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of bothered me a little bit because I was like, I kind of liked it the last time. So that's why I really was I try to do my recipes so they're really foolproof and they're exact and that, and so when someone comes up to me and said, oh, I fixed your, I don't know, carne asada tacos, and I'm like, how was it? And they're like, oh, it's good. I was like, okay, good, thank you. Because I want to make sure that people have a good experience with my recipes,
For me, the hardest part is getting the oven involved. I could do stovetop and food prep, but once you put something in the oven, there's a 50% chance it's going to get burned.
Well, and the thing is that you don't think about it, but, ovens have different temperatures.
Yeah.
So you have to get to know your appliances. So, maybe your appliance at 350 is really 325. So a lot of times people don't take the time to really, get to know the equipment in the kitchen. Gas, cooking on a gas range is a lot different than electric.
Yeah.
Your ovens can be different temperatures. So there's a lot of work that's involved.
My smart speaker has become my best friend because I just tell it to set the time
Very
and
good.
I keep cooking. When did the partnership with the American Diabetes Association take place? Was that before you started the book or were you already in the process?
Right. Well, actually, no. I'd written a proposal and I have a fabulous agent back east who's one of the top cookbook agents in the industry, and we were looking to do a book that was lighter in style. And so I had written over 1,000 recipes already in the his Mexican food Southwest venue. And so I just thought it was time to do something a little bit lighter. And so I'd written a proposal in that regard, and she was approached by the American Diabetes Association who was interested in it. And so we just ended up having this really great opportunity. And then we started formulating it a little bit closer to the American Diabetes guidelines. I had used those guidelines a little bit, but not as closely as we did once that we had that relationship.
Okay. Just looking at the cover, my mouth begins to water. You have the tacos and what looks like
Pico de gallo.
Pico de gallo,
yes.
How could you not grab this with all the wonderful recipes as you thumb through,
And one of the things I think that they did a really nice job of, I was lucky enough I was able to work with them on all the photography, so that was great. But one of the things it's so valuable is that if you look on the inside, they have all of the nutritional information on every single page. So every single recipe is approved by the American Diabetes Association.
Wow.
And their guidelines, and then they give you the exchanges because they have their own formulas of how they help their followers and their members with their diets, and so it gives the reader a lot of information. And I always say this has really become a book of what you can have and not what you can't have, because a lot of people that are struggling with either pre-diabetes or with diabetes are like, well, I can't have tamales because of all the masa. I can't have, tacos. I can't have burritos, those kinds. And that's really not the case. So you just have to really look at the ingredients and find the right ingredients that help you, and that's what I did to create these recipes. So, so tortillas, whole wheat tortillas, not the 18-inch, but maybe the 10-inch. Those kinds of things that make a big difference, and then they fit within their guidelines.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the process of completing a cookbook?
Oh my goodness. Well, first thing is writing the proposal, and typically in that you write all of the recipes, the recipe names, and so all the titles. So you do all the titles, and then you do a lot of research. You've got to research the market and see what the competition is doing, and so that's a whole process in itself. That's about a year or two before you probably even sell the project. And so so that takes a lot of work, but I'm a researcher. I love to research, and I think that that's really fun and interesting. And so that's the first part. And then once you have the project, then it's all about testing the recipes and finding little, unique anecdotes about the recipes or some of the stories that go along with the recipes. So a lot of recipe testing. So that usually takes another year and a half to 2 years. And so that's really, and then you're just tweaking the recipes and really, trying to fine tune them. And working with the American Diabetes Association, it was really interesting because I learned a lot more about what is needed to have a healthy diet for pre-diabetes or a diabetic situation. And so I would I created a really great, there's a really good churro recipe in here. Oh, wow. So I was super proud of it. I was like, this is great. It's low fat, it's low sugar, it's low this. So, but it didn't have enough fiber in it. So it was really interesting. So I learned that it's not just about low sugar and low fat, but also you've got to have enough fiber so that you have a really healthy diet. So that churro recipe is just, it has the churros, but it's served with fresh berries, so like blueberries and raspberries, and it gives you more fiber. So, so it was great. So it was a really great learning experience for me as well.
When looking at a ketogenic diet, you take a minimal amount of carbohydrates and sugars and use alternatives when cooking, like you talked about, like coconut and almond flour and erythritol, as well as consume a high number of fats. Is that something readers can expect in the book? And if not, what's the difference?
Well, you know what? I don't follow keto very closely. I'm really focused on just the American Diabetes Association and their guidelines. Okay. So I couldn't even really speak to that for you. But I know that this is just really great we should all be eating this way. It's, like I said, it's lower in fat, lower in carbs, lower in calories. And, you're still getting great things like roasted pineapple salsa, your grilled chicken tacos, different things like that. I think one thing that's really awesome about the salsa section is like this spicy corn salsa. That's a free food when it comes to the American Diabetes. They don't even count it. You don't even have to count it. So there's a lot of things in the book, like I said, that you don't even realize that you can have. So it's pretty exciting.
This book says cooking for diabetes on the cover, but it seems like anybody that's wanting to live a healthier lifestyle and reduce those sugars and carbs and heavy fats, they can utilize this cookbook as well.
Right. And I think again, it's how we all should be eating. Even myself. I mean, we know we love our Mexican food and don't always.
We have our comfort foods.
Yeah, we don't always, reduce the maybe it's olive oil or it's cooking oil or whatever, but you can minimalize a lot of different things and really can make it a lot healthier. I think the other thing that was interesting that a lot of people didn't know is that, you can have cocktails. So I put in, there's frozen margaritas, there's sparkling margarita punch, there's micheladas, there's a whole lot of things like that in there that I think that people were like, oh, I didn't know I could have that, I'm pre-diabetic.
And I like how they're towards the beginning of the book, so you whip up the cocktail and then you get cooking.
Hey, and you can do that while you're cooking. It's always fun. And then I also put in lifestyle trends for diabetes that I think is also important to all of us.
Yeah.
I think that we all need to be drinking a lot of water. We all should be moving more. So, drinking water and walking and just little tips like that, I think were really important. And then the other thing I thought that was also a plus that I put in was tips for the just everyday tips to cook this way. And so, things like looking for lower fat dairy products. And as you said, like almond milk and different alternatives. So I use that a lot. A lot of lower fat dairy products makes a huge, huge difference. Yeah. Whole wheat tortillas, smaller tortillas, lots of, just different types of greens that you can pile on tacos or enchiladas and, and keep that balance so that there's a lot of freshness in every single one of your entrees. Yeah. I think that makes a big difference. And you're getting the fiber too. You're getting a lot of fiber, right? And so I've just from writing the book, I've really tried to eat a little bit differently than I probably had in the past. So it's it's for all of us.
Yeah. What are some important ingredients you recommend to always have on hand? Certain proteins, fibers, carbs, seasonings.
Yeah, what I did is in the very beginning of the book, I really wanted to make sure that people kept a good. So I have a whole section called Tex-Mex Flavor Essentials. So of course we love our chili. We love our chili here in New Mexico more than anybody in the world, right?
Yes.
So I had to put chili in, and of course people all around the country and the world use our chili. So that's important, but like fresh herbs, your cilantro, your sage, rosemary, you can do all of those pretty fresh, but you can also do them dried. Yeah. And so that's really helpful. And then of course your spices, your cayenne pepper, cinnamon, cumin, always have those because you can flavor things. And I think that's one thing that's really important is when you're really trying to reduce fat and reduce calories, using your seasonings gives things so much more flavor, and you don't even realize, that there's a difference, right? And that was the key to the cookbook, was everything had to still be authentic. I mean, this needed to taste just like it looks, right? Yes. It doesn't need to taste light. Exactly. Doesn't need to taste different. So it needs to taste just like something you'd order at a local restaurant or taqueria or whatever. So so those are just some of the things, the seasonings were super, super important.
And a lot of those seasonings come in low sodium, don't they?
Yes. And most of them don't even have sodium, but some that do, you can get them in low sodium. I continually try all the, like Mrs. Dash and all those different ones. And there's a few that are better than others, but I think you just have to choose, you have to try, you have to test things, and you have to find your favorite. And again, it's like cooking, it takes work, right? Yep. But then once it does, like you were talking about, like prepping, like meal prepping, it takes work, but then the rest of the week you're doing pretty good because you took the time, right, to get everything.
And seasonings can be expensive, but once you get your little collection, get once
it's an investment.
Month, you get a couple of seasonings and then you have a whole spread.
Right, and they last a long time. So I think that's important. Lots of freshness. So, as much, fresh produce. And I recommend buying like produce like twice a week. Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many years I've bought. You go to the store on either a Sunday or a Monday, and then, you think you're going to eat it all week, and then by Thursday you're throwing it out because you didn't, or Friday. So I always recommend just to pick up produce at least twice a week, just so that you keep it fresh and keeps it interesting, and you don't waste money. So I think that that's super important. But I put a little section up here in the front, and beans and nuts and lean meats, and your any of your fishes that fish that you like. So there's just a lot of different ways to do it. But
what I've been starting to do with the fresh herbs is start a little window garden.
Oh,
You have
nice,
fresh
yes.
parsley, fresh oregano.
it's amazing what we can grow.
Yeah, and so that's kind of helped me out because
Yeah.
sometimes the grocery stores don't even have it. So I've kind of
Right.
went that option.
Right. No, I think that's wonderful. That's fun.
I've pulled some information from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's website. Over their lifetimes, 40% of U.S. adults are expected to develop type 2 diabetes.
Yeah, it's really concerning.
Yeah, that number is even higher for Hispanic men and women, more than 50%.
Yes.
Some more details: Hispanic people are about 50% more likely to die from diabetes. More than 1 in 3 adults have pre-diabetes, and Hispanic people are at greater risk than non-Hispanic. Now, this can also lead to chronic kidney disease, which is a big issue. Then you'll need to go, if you experience kidney failure, you'll have to go through
Dialysis, sure.
So for me, this really hit home. There was a day I went to the doctor, and she sat down with me, and I was like 0.1 away from being pre-diabetic. And so
Come on, Robert, let's get healthy.
At that time in my life, I decided to make a difference. And at that point, if I had this cookbook, the
Right.
difference it can make, and just knowing those numbers for the Hispanic culture, that they're higher than everybody else.
Well, and I think that's the thing, is that it's gaining knowledge and gaining insight, and that's what you were doing. And so all of a sudden, then you knew you had to put a plan together.
Yeah.
And like I said, what a great book this is for all populations, but the Hispanic Latino population. I mean, this is enchiladas and taco, and I'm telling you, I tried to keep it as authentic as possible. But it's a starting place. These are great ideas that they can start. But I mean, I've got everything that you can imagine: quesadillas, nachos, margaritas. I put it all in here, and it's how we eat. It's how we eat along the border, and it really. I mean, I did it because I know how important it is. My mom was diagnosed later on in life, like many will be diagnosed later on in life, right? And so that's the hardest part. And I think as family members, the best gift that we can give those that are, in danger of being diagnosed or pre-diabetic is the gift of time, giving them some time to, helping them in the kitchen, helping them grocery shop, helping them with their diets, helping them, find recipes like these that can really make a difference in their life. Or when they come over for dinner, you're cooking something like this for them, and all of us are enjoying it as well, because we all should be eating this way.
Yeah.
But because people that have this, like my mom, they feel bad. They don't want anybody to go out of their way. They want to make sure everybody thinks everything is okay. And they don't want to bother people. And so I get that, because that was how my mom was. She was just like, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. And it's like, no, this is our family. We all need to worry about it.
And it becomes easier when the whole family gets involved, because say if you're someone with kids, or if you have a spouse that isn't diabetic and you have it, then there's the potential of food being in the house that you can't have.
Right.
And that makes it so much more difficult. So when your family's there to help you, that makes so much more of a support chain.
Right. And it's just little things. I mean, think about how often we have chips and salsa, right?
Yeah.
So salsa is like free food, right? Free. So you can eat this. So don't worry about the salsa, but let's do some healthy chips. So let's make our own corn tortilla chips, which is so easy, where you can do it in a high 400-degree oven, and you take a corn tortillas, and you make wedges out of them, spray them with cooking spray, and you don't even have to put salt on them if you don't want, if you're really watching your salt intake. But then bake them at 400 degrees so they're crispy. They're not exactly like the regular corn tortilla chip, but they're pretty darn close.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, there's no oil, there's no fat, and you can enjoy your chips and salsa with your family. So, I mean, there's just little things like that you can do. That are going to make a big difference in people's lives, Yeah. So.
What else can we find in the book? You mentioned the cocktails. There's desserts.
Yeah, there's great
appetizers.
desserts. Oh yeah, there's one. Like I said, I did a whole thing on churros, and so that was a great recipe. Let me find the table of contents. There's did a lot of. There's a baked sopapilla bites, so little tiny sopapilla bites that you're able to have, a mini apple chimichanga, which is just a whole wheat, tortilla that has a great apple filling in it that you bake at a high heat instead of deep frying.
Yeah.
And put a little caramel sauce over the top. I mean, how can you pass that? It's a good comfort food, right?
It is.
So I tried to put a lot of fun little recipes, and one of the things that I did was, because they really wanted this to be a Tex-Mex style book, is that doing research on Tex-Mex cuisine. There were just certain things that had to be in there. So there had to be queso.
Yeah.
We had to have nachos. There had to be, I did a cheese enchilada with brown chili gravy, because the chili gravy was a big part of Tex-Mex cuisine. So there's a wonderful recipe in there for that. And in the desserts, there had to be some pralines, because in every Tex-Mex cafe from the 30s until maybe even today, they always sell the pralines at the end of the meal. So, so I did a little saucy praline sauce that you can just put over, some angel food cake, or a low-fat and low-calorie frozen vanilla yogurt, or something like that.
Sounds good, yeah.
So I tried to do some things that were really authentic throughout the book for Tex-Mex cuisine, but also tried to do a lot of the Mexican and Southwest cuisine that we all love so much.
Well, I could sit here all day and talk with you about
food.
I
know.
Where can people find your book?
So the book is on Amazon.
Okay.
So you can find it at Amazon.com, or you can also buy it at the AmericanDiabetes.com website. So it's actually sold. It was published and sold by them.
Yeah.
So, and Barnes & Noble has it as well. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being
here. Oh, no, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
I am a big foodie, and so I look forward to going through the book more and cooking up some of those recipes. The churro is one that I'm going to have to try.
You're going to have to try that churro one. That's my favorite. It's brilliant.
Yes.
But, and it tastes really good. And it's just, like I said, this is my gift to people that we love near and dear, and near and far, and, to be healthy. And like I said, we should all be eating this way.
Well, thank you. Thank you for watching Fronteras, A Changing America. I'm Robert Palacios. Until next time, hasta luego.